They left her to die in the mud. Not because she was weak. Not because she had failed. But because war does not wait for the fallen. And the only one who stopped was human. The battlefield of Karath, 9 still burned under a broken orange sky. Human dropships roared above the clouds, chasing retreating alien cruisers. The ground below was chaos, shattered walkers, melted armor, broken weapons glowing in the dirt. Sergeant Cale Mercer moved carefully through the wreckage. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't famous. He was just a field engineer attached to the 7th Human Expeditionary Unit, the kind of soldier who fixed things while everyone else broke them. His helmet scanner pinged. Life form detected. Not human. He froze. Protocol was clear. Confirm threat. Eliminate threat. Move on. But the signal was weak. Fading. He stepped forward slowly. Half buried beneath the remains of a crashed Dominion assault frame lay a massive alien warrior. Tall. Armored in dark silver plates that shimmered faintly. For limbs, 2 twisted unnaturally. The spinal exoskeleton flickered like a dying star. Her species, the Virex Dominion, had declared humanity primitive. Emotional. Reckless. Inferior. They had underestimated humans before. The alien's helmet was cracked. One sharp golden eye opened and locked onto him. Human, she rasped. Finish it. Cale raised his rifle. His finger rested on the trigger. She didn't beg. She didn't threaten. She simply waited. And something inside him refused. You're paralyzed, he said quietly, scanning her armor. Your neural spine link is fried. I am unsalvageable, she replied. My command has already marked me as lost. Cale looked up at the sky where her fleet had retreated. They had left her. Just like that. Humans had a word for that. Abandoned. He lowered his rifle. That's stupid, he muttered. The alien's eye narrowed. You are foolish. Probably, he admitted. But humans are good at foolish. He dropped to his knees and began scanning her suit more deeply. Her armor rejected his interface. He bypassed it. Her systems tried to shut him out. He forced entry using an old engineering override patch that wasn't even meant for alien tech. How are you accessing? Trial and error, he said. Mostly error. Her spinal conduit was shattered. Nanite clusters frozen mid-repair. Any other species would walk away. Humans built bridges out of scrap. Hold still, Cale said. I cannot move. Good. He pulled a portable fusion stabilizer from his pack, normally used to restart disabled drones. He rewired it. Rerouted its energy output. Fed a controlled pulse into her suit's secondary grid. The alien gasped. Pain flashed across her face. Her armor lights flickered brighter. That is unstable, she warned. Yeah, he said. So am I. He pushed more power. Her nanites restarted. One by one. Slowly. Impossibly. The alien's breathing steadied. She stared at him now, not with hatred. With confusion. Why? She asked. Cale didn't answer immediately. Instead, he grunted and began lifting the broken assault frame off her body piece by piece. Because humans are stubborn, he thought. Because we don't leave people. Even enemies. Even aliens. Even those who came to conquer us. You are risking court-martial, she said quietly. He shrugged. I've been yelled at before. Finally, with effort that strained every muscle in his body, he dragged her free from the wreckage. She couldn't stand. Her lower limbs remained unresponsive. Her suit stabilized, but barely. He looked at the battlefield around them. His unit was long gone. Extraction point was 3 kilometers east. Enemy patrols still roamed the jungle edges. He made a decision that would echo across 2 civilizations. He slung her across his back. She was heavy. Very heavy. You will not survive this, she said flatly. Maybe not, he answered. But you will. And then the shooting started again. A Virex scout drone emerged from the smoke. It locked onto them instantly. The drone scanned Kale. Then scanned the alien commander on his back. And hesitated. "Stand down," she commanded weakly in her native tongue. The drone froze. Kale blinked. "You can still give orders." "I am High Strategist Varel Tharin," she said. "My authority code remains active." The drone pivoted. It fired, not at them, but at incoming hostile units from her own species who had returned to confirm battlefield losses. Kale stared. The drone shielded them. Varel's voice was quiet now. "You have altered probabilities, human." "Yeah," he panted as he carried her through burning trees. "Yes. My people do not forget debts." He almost laughed. "Good," he said. "Because humanity doesn't forget either." Behind them, the battlefield shifted. Not because of weapons. Not because of fleets. But because one human soldier refused to follow protocol. The jungle swallowed them in green mist. And somewhere far above, Dominion Command began receiving an impossible signal. High Strategist Varel Tharin. Alive. In human custody. Probability models shattered. War projections recalculated. Because humans did not act logically. They acted differently. And sometimes, that difference changed everything. The message reached the Dominion fleet 12 minutes after the battlefield went silent. High Strategist Varel Tharin, alive. That was impossible. She had been marked unsalvageable. Her vitals had flatlined for 37 seconds. Her extraction beacon had died. The retreat order had been absolute. The Dominion did not retreat for the fallen. They advanced. Yet now, a faint but undeniable authority code pulsed through the encrypted channel. Weak. Fragmented. But real. On the command bridge of the Virex flagship Sovereign Claw, silence spread like frost. "Source," demanded Fleet Primarch Zyron. "Ground level," an officer replied. "Within human-controlled territory." The Primarch's secondary eyes narrowed. "Explain." "No Dominion rescue craft is active in that zone." Which meant only one thing. A human. 3 kilometers away, Sergeant Cale Mercer nearly collapsed as he reached the edge of the jungle. The extraction ridge was ahead, but so were patrol drones, both human and Dominion. Varel's weight pressed against his spine. His muscles burned. His breath came in sharp pulls. "You may put me down," she said quietly. "Nope. You are inefficient." "Yeah. But persistent." A Dominion scout ship swept overhead. Varel's eye flickered with calculation. "If my fleet detects me fully," she said, "they will attempt retrieval by force." "That bad?" "Yes." "And if humans detect you?" "They will dissect me." Cale grimaced. "Not helping." He slid behind a fallen terraforming tower and lowered her gently. Her lower limbs twitched. Barely. "You restarted my nanits," she said, studying him. "That required adaptive problem-solving beyond your species' projected capability." He laughed breathlessly. "We're good at breaking projections." In the distance, human comms crackled. "Sergeant Mercer, report your position." His unit. They were searching. He looked at Varel. If he reported honestly, they would take her. If he lied, he would be court-martialed. If he hesitated, both fleets might converge here. Varel watched his face. "You hesitate because you weigh loyalty against morality." "Pretty much." "You could abandon me now and retain honor among your people." Cale thought of the battlefield. Of how her own fleet had left her. "Not my style." He keyed his comm. "This is Mercer. I've got injured." Repeat. "Injured. Need med-evac at grid Theta 7. He did not specify species. There was a pause. "Copy. Mercer. Evac inbound." Varel's eye widened slightly. "You misled them." "Technically true," he said. "You are injured." Minutes later, a human med shuttle descended in a blast of dust. 2 soldiers jumped out. They froze when they saw Varel. Weapons raised instantly. "What the hell is that?" one shouted. Kale stood between them and her. "She's under my protection." "That's an enemy commander." "She's a patient." Tension crackled thicker than plasma smoke. Behind them, Dominion ships shifted formation in orbit. They had detected her signal more clearly now. Fleet Primarch Xiron studied the human shuttle on his tactical display. "One human soldier carries her," an officer reported. "He shields her from his own kind." "Why?" "No aggression detected." Xiron leaned forward. "Observe. Do not engage." For now. Back on the ground, Captain Arlen Drax arrived within minutes. He stepped out of a combat transport, face like carved stone. "Sergeant Mercer," he said evenly. "Explain." Kale swallowed. She was left to die. That was not the question. She wasn't fighting. She was paralyzed. "I repaired her suit." "You what?" Varel spoke before Kale could answer. "Inaccurate," she said calmly. "He restored functional capacity to 31%. Without his intervention, I would be deceased." Every rifle aimed at her tightened. Captain Drax studied her. "You understand what you're admitting, alien?" "Yes." "And why defend him?" Varel's gaze moved to Kale. "Because he acted in contradiction to strategic logic. That has value." Silence. Drax turned slowly toward Kale. "You realize this could start another engagement." "Or end one," Kale said. "Bold. Too bold." The captain's jaw tightened. Before he could respond, alarms screamed. Orbital signatures spiked. Dominion ships powered weapons, not firing, but targeting. A show of force. Human ships responded instantly. The sky filled with lock warnings. One wrong move. Total war escalation. Varel closed her eye briefly. "They are recalculating," she murmured. Kale looked up. "What happens now?" Varel inhaled slowly. "If I signal full distress, they will attempt violent extraction." "And if you don't?" "They will hesitate." "Why?" "Because I am their chief strategist." That hit hard. Kale blinked. "You're the brain of their war machine." "Yes." Captain Drax stared at her. "And you're just telling us?" Varel's gaze sharpened. "Because humans do something rare." "And what's that?" "You break patterns." Above them, Fleet Primarch Xiron waited. His advisors urged immediate retrieval. "Humans are unpredictable," one warned. "Exactly," Xiron replied. He studied the human soldier shielding Varel. A single infantry unit had disrupted interstellar war equations. "Fascinating." "Stand down weapons," Xiron ordered. Shock rippled across his bridge. "Primarch." "Stand down." On the human side, sensors updated. Dominion targeting systems powered down. Confusion spread through both fleets. Captain Drax slowly lowered his weapon. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. Kale exhaled for the first time in minutes. Varel looked at him. "You have altered the board, Sergeant Mercer." He shook his head. "No. I just carried someone." "No," she said quietly. "You forced two civilizations to pause." That was the moment the war shifted. Not because of firepower. Not because of treaties. But because one stubborn human refused to walk away. And far above, in silent orbit, Fleet Primarch Xiron made a decision that no Dominion leader had ever made before. He opened a communication channel. To the humans. The message from the Dominion flagship reached human command like a thunderclap in a quiet room. "This is Fleet Primarch Xiron of the Virex Dominion. We request dialogue. Not surrender. Not threat. Dialogue." Inside the human command carrier Resolute Dawn, generals stared at the holographic projection in disbelief. "This is a trap," one whispered. "It could be," Admiral Imoni Rao replied calmly. "But it's the first pause in 6 years of war." On the surface below, Sergeant Cale Mercer stood beside a secured medical unit where High Strategist Varel Tharin rested. She was stabilized now. Her spinal conduit glowed faintly, slowly reconnecting damaged neural lines. She could not yet walk, but she could stand with assistance. That alone defied Dominion expectations. "You should not be present in these talks," a human intelligence officer told Cale. "Probably not," he answered. "But she trusts me." Varel looked at him. "I do not trust you," she corrected evenly. He smirked. Getting warmer. Despite tension, a strange understanding had grown between them. It was not friendship yet. It was something more fragile, recognition. Both of them had been abandoned by protocol. And both had chosen something different. A neutral ground was selected, a derelict orbital station long stripped of weapons. Human and Dominion ships formed a tense perimeter around it. Inside the docking chamber, humans entered from one side, Dominion from the other. Cale walked beside Varel, supporting her weight as her armored legs adjusted to partial function. Every Dominion warrior present stared at him. To them, he was an anomaly, a human who carried their greatest strategist. Fleet Primarch Xiron stood tall, his armor gleaming in sharp angles of silver and blue light. "Strategist Tharin," he said. "You live." "I do," she answered. "You were marked lost." "I was." His gaze shifted to Cale. "You are the human responsible." Cale nodded once. "Yes, sir." The Primarch tilted his head slightly. "You addressed me with respect." "My mom raised me that way." A faint ripple of confusion passed through the Dominion officers. Varel almost, smiled. Admiral Rao stepped forward. "Let us speak plainly," she said. "This war has cost both sides heavily. Why request dialogue now?" Xiron did not hesitate. "Because your soldier demonstrated a variable we failed to calculate." Admiral Rao folded her hands. "And that variable is compassion under no strategic benefit." The room grew quiet. Varel stepped forward slowly, standing on her own for the first time since the battlefield. "Our war doctrine assumes rational aggression," she explained. "Territory, resources, dominance." She glanced at Cale. "But humans introduce unpredictable altruism." Cale leaned slightly toward her. "That's the nicest thing anyone's said about us this week." Admiral Rao's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "You're saying one act changed your war assessment?" "No," Xiron replied. "It shattered it." Before anyone could respond, alarms suddenly blared across the station. Both human and Dominion officers snapped toward their tactical displays. Unidentified vessels had exited slip space. Dozens of them. Sleek. Black. Unknown configuration. "They are not Dominion," one officer confirmed. "Not human," another added. Varel's expression hardened. "The Ketheri." The name hit like ice. Admiral Rao looked sharply at her. "You know them?" "Yes. A species that thrives on prolonged wars. They harvest weakened civilizations." Cale blinked. "Harvest?" "For resources," Varel said quietly. "And for labor." The Ketheri fleet began broadcasting. "This sector has been designated reclamation territory. All military assets are to stand down or be neutralized." Admiral Rao's jaw tightened. "They've been waiting for us to exhaust each other." Xiron's eyes flickered with cold fury. "They prey on division." In orbit, the Ketheri ships opened fire without further warning. Energy beams tore into both human and Dominion vessels. The first explosion lit up the void like a dying star. Inside the station, chaos erupted. Cale grabbed a support rail as the structure trembled. "Great timing," he muttered. Varel turned to Xiron. "If we engage separately, we fall." The Primarch did not argue. For the first time in Dominion history, he issued a shared tactical frequency. "To all Dominion forces," he commanded, "link with human fleet protocols." Human officers hesitated only a moment before Admiral Rao nodded. Do it. Data streams merged mid-battle. Dominion ships with superior shield geometry combined with human adaptive targeting systems. Where Dominion firing patterns were precise but rigid, human captains improvised. They used debris fields as cover. They redirected damaged power cores into explosive traps. They broadcast false retreat signals to lure Kethri ships into crossfire. The Kethri had expected two fractured enemies. They encountered one unpredictable alliance. On the station, Kale helped Varel into a command console. Her fingers moved across holographic displays, calculating trajectories faster than any human AI. Your species thinks laterally, she observed. Yeah, Kale said. We panic creatively. A Kethri dreadnought locked weapons on the station. Varel's eyes widened. They target leadership. Kale didn't think. He moved. He rerouted the station's old reactor grid, something Dominion scans had labeled useless centuries ago. Humans never labeled junk as useless. He overloaded external cargo modules and launched them directly into the dreadnought's firing arc. The explosion wasn't elegant. It was messy, chaotic, brilliant. The dreadnought's main cannon detonated prematurely. Across both fleets, morale shifted instantly. The Kethri lines faltered. For the first time, they encountered resistance that adapted mid-strike. Zyron watched human and Dominion ships moving together in synchronized improvisation. This is what they feared, Varel said softly. Unity born from difference. Hours later, the Kethri retreated. Not destroyed, but driven off. The battlefield fell silent again. This time, not with suspicion. With realization. Two species that had warred for years had just survived because one human soldier refused to let an enemy die. On the station, Varel turned to Kale. You carried me from mud. You helped carry this, he replied. She studied him carefully. You humans are irrational. Frequently. And dangerous. Depends who you ask. Her voice softened slightly. You are also remarkable. Kale scratched the back of his neck. Don't tell anyone. I've got a reputation. Outside, human and Dominion ships remained in shared formation. Not allies yet, but no longer enemies. And far beyond sensor range, the Kethri began planning their return. Because now they understood something. Humanity was not dangerous because of its weapons. Humanity was dangerous because it changed the game. And this was only the beginning. Victory did not bring peace. It brought questions. In the days after the Kethri retreated, human and Dominion fleets remained in guarded orbit around Karath 9. Ships that once fired at each other now exchanged data streams. Joint patrol routes were drawn. Emergency channels remained open. But unity born in battle is fragile. On Earth, human political leaders demanded answers. Why are we coordinating with the Dominion? One senator argued. They invaded 3 colonies. On the Dominion homeworld, war councils raged with equal fury. A strategist allowed herself to be carried by an enemy, a Dominion warlord snarled. This is Dishona. At the center of the storm stood 2 figures. Sergeant Kale Mercer. High strategist Varel Tharin. And both were summoned. Kale stood in a military tribunal chamber aboard the Resolute Dawn. His dress uniform felt tighter than any combat armor he had ever worn. Admiral Rao sat before him, flanked by senior officers. You disobeyed direct battlefield protocol, one officer said sharply. You concealed an enemy commander. You altered interspecies engagement without authorization. Kale nodded slowly. Yes, Do you regret it? He thought about the battlefield. About Varel's eye opening in the mud. About the Kethri dreadnought exploding because 2 enemies shared information. No, he answered. The chamber went quiet. You understand, Admiral Rao said carefully, that your actions nearly escalated total war. They also stopped it, Kale replied. Some officers shifted uncomfortably. You are a sergeant, one snapped. Not a diplomat. I'm an engineer, Kale said calmly. I fix things that are broken. And you believed an alien war strategist was broken. He hesitated. I believed leaving her was. Silence settled heavy in the room. Admiral Rao leaned back. You may have saved billions, she said quietly. Or you may have complicated everything. Kale gave a small shrug. Usually both. Across orbit, Varel stood before the Dominion High War Assembly. She stood fully upright now. Her spinal conduit had healed beyond projected recovery rates. Human modifications had integrated with her nanits in ways Dominion science could not fully explain. You collaborated with humans, a warlord accused. I coordinated against a greater threat, she corrected. You allowed yourself to be indebted. Her golden eyes flashed. I was not indebted. I was assisted. Murmurs spread. You defend them, another officer growled. I analyze them, she replied. And my analysis has changed. The war chamber grew colder. The humans fight differently, she continued. They innovate under pressure. They adapt emotionally. They protect even enemies. That is weakness. No, she said firmly. It is resilience. Fleet Primarch Zyron watched her carefully. You suggest alliance, he said. I suggest survival, Varel answered. The chamber erupted in outrage. But Zyron raised a hand. Silence. He studied Varel. You are certain? Yes. And if your certainty fractures Dominion unity? She did not hesitate. Then we evolve. That word struck like lightning. Evolve. Dominion culture valued dominance. Humans valued growth. Varel had learned something dangerous. Days later, Kale received unexpected orders. He was not discharged. He was not imprisoned. He was reassigned. Joint Liaison Unit. First of its kind. His partner. High Strategist Varel Tharin. When he entered the Joint Command Chamber, she was already there. You survived judgment, she observed. Guess they decided I'm more useful than dangerous. She tilted her head. You are both. He smiled slightly. I'll take it. The Joint Fleet had little time to celebrate. Kethri probes began appearing at the edge of the sector. Silent. Watching. Waiting. Intelligence reports revealed disturbing truths. The Kethri had engineered multiple wars across the galaxy. They destabilized powers, then harvested the survivors. Human-Dominion conflict had been carefully monitored by them for years. We were being farmed, Kale muttered. Yes, Varel said quietly. And we nearly complied. Human and Dominion engineers began collaborating openly now. Dominion shield matrices combined with human modular weapon systems. Human AI integrated with Dominion predictive combat modeling. What emerged was something neither species had built alone. Flexible. Adaptive. Unpredictable. And terrifying. But not everyone accepted the alliance. A Dominion war faction launched a surprise assault on a joint patrol fleet, accusing Varel of corruption. Simultaneously, a human extremist group attempted to sabotage shared data networks. Fear is loud when change begins. During the internal crisis, Kale found Varel alone in the observation deck, staring at the stars. You look troubled, he said gently. My people fracture, she admitted. So do mine. You do not regret your choice. He thought carefully. No. She turned toward him. Even if it costs you status. I never cared about status. And if it costs your life. He gave a half smile. Wouldn't be the first time I risked that. She studied him longer this time. Humans are reckless. We prefer bold. She almost smiled again. Then we must be bold together. At that moment, Kethri fleet signatures multiplied. Not probes. Warships. Hundreds. This was no raid. It was invasion. Joint command alarms blazed across every ship. Human and Dominion forces assembled rapidly. For the first time in history, their fleets formed a unified battle line. Kale stood beside Varel at the command center. "You ready?" he asked. "No," she answered honestly. "Good," he said. "Means we'll think harder." As the Kethri Armada advanced, something unexpected happened. Civilian Dominion ships transmitted support signals. Human colony fleets volunteered auxiliary defense. Fear had not broken unity. It had strengthened it. Because both species had seen something rare. Compassion as strategy. And now they would defend it. The Kethri broadcast one final message. Division was profitable. Unity will be corrected. Varel's eyes burned with determination. Let them try. Kale cracked his knuckles. Time to fix another broken thing. The combined fleet surged forward. And this time, they were not two civilizations. They were one choice. The Kethri Armada darkened the stars. Hundreds of ships, shaped like blades carved from shadow, advanced in perfect formation. They did not rush. They did not rage. They calculated. For centuries, they had done this. Wait for war. Wait for weakness. Harvest the survivors. But this time, something was different. Human and Dominion fleets stood side by side. Not merged. Not identical. But aligned. And at the center of that alignment stood a human engineer and an alien strategist who were never supposed to matter. The first wave hit hard. Kethri weapons were designed to destabilize shields by frequency adaptation. Dominion shields began to flicker. "Adjust modulation," Varel commanded. Human captains responded instantly. Instead of strengthening shields, they dropped them in staggered patterns. The Kethri beams passed through empty space. Then human ships rotated hull plating layered with reflective composites never meant for frontline battle. Improvised defense. Unorthodox. Effective. "Your species fights like collapsing buildings," a Dominion officer muttered. "Thanks," a human pilot replied over comms. "We fall creatively." But the Kethri adapted quickly. They always did. A second wave launched drone swarms that bypassed standard targeting algorithms. Dominion precision failed against chaotic numbers. Human AI struggled to track them all. The fleet began taking damage. Varel's eyes moved rapidly across tactical projections. "They are forcing us into predictable counterpatterns." Kale stared at the display. "Then we stop countering." She looked at him sharply. "Explain." He swallowed. "We've been fighting them like soldiers. And let's fight them like humans." That was vague. But Varel had learned something about humans. Vague often meant brilliant. "What do you propose?" He pulled up civilian data streams. Mining routes. Cargo traffic. Terraforming satellites. Dominion commanders protested immediately. "You would involve non-military infrastructure." Kale nodded. "Everything's a tool if you look at it right." Within minutes, human engineers began overriding old orbital mining rigs. Dominion energy harvest arrays were recalibrated. Thousands of civilian drones, never designed for combat, launched into space. The Kethri ignored them at first. That was their mistake. Human cargo drones carried industrial-grade magnetic grapplers. They latched onto Kethri hulls, disrupting their formation. Dominion power arrays transmitted coordinated EMP bursts through those grapplers. Kethri ships flickered. Formation broke. Chaos entered their perfect geometry. And chaos was humanity's home field. "Push now." Varel ordered. Dominion cruisers advanced with precise spearhead formations. Human ships flanked unpredictably, using debris and civilian wreckage as kinetic projectiles. Kethri ships began falling. Not because humans were stronger. Not because Dominion were superior. But because unity had created something neither species possessed alone. Still, at the center of the Kethri fleet, a massive command vessel powered up. Larger than anything on the field. Its energy signature dwarfed every ship present. Varel's voice tightened. "That is their core intelligence vessel." Kale stared. Translation. If it survives, they adapt again. The vessel began charging a sector-wide pulse. A weapon designed to fry neural networks and AI simultaneously. It would cripple both fleets. Human and Dominion. No recovery. No shield can stop that, a Dominion officer said quietly. Varel calculated rapidly. There is one possibility. She turned to Kale. But it requires proximity. He looked at the core vessel. That close? Yes. Cool. You are not evaluating risk. Oh, I am, he replied. I just don't like the alternative. He turned to Admiral Rao. I need a fast ship. Minimal crew. You're a sergeant, she said sharply. Right now I'm an idea. Varel stepped forward. I will accompany him. Dominion officers protested loudly. You are high strategist. I am also the reason this alliance exists, she said calmly. And I will see it survive. There was no more time to argue. A small human strike craft launched. Kale piloted. Varel interfaced directly with the ship's systems. Kethri defenses targeted them immediately. Human ships created diversions. Dominion cruisers sacrificed position to shield their approach. Inside the strike craft, alarm screamed. Your plan. Varel demanded. Kale grinned tightly. We overload their adaptability. That is not specific. Watch. As they neared the core vessel, Kale transmitted a chaotic stream of data. Not weapons codes. Not viruses. Human culture. Music files. Unstructured language databases. Art. Comedy routines. Millions of unpredictable human patterns. Varel understood instantly. Their AI depends on pattern recognition. Yep. You are flooding it with irrational variables. Exactly. The core vessel hesitated. Its pulse weapon flickered as it attempted to process the torrent of contradictory inputs. Human emotion. Human creativity. Dominion tactical overlays layered on top. Too much. Too fast. The Kethri core faltered. Varel injected a Dominion override spike through the interference window. For 3 seconds, the most advanced harvesting intelligence in the sector froze. 3 seconds was enough. Kale armed the last device in the cargo hold. Not a bomb. A mining charge. Industrial. Messy. Human. You ready? He asked. Varel met his eyes. For evolution. They launched the charge and veered away at full thrust. Behind them, the core vessel detonated in a violent cascade of collapsing energy fields. The shockwave rippled through the Kethri fleet. Disconnected from centralized adaptation, their ships lost coordination. Joint forces pressed the advantage. One by one, Kethri vessels retreated or were destroyed. Hours later, silence returned to space. Not fragile. Not uncertain. Earned. The human strike craft drifted damaged but intact. Rescue ships surrounded them. Inside, Kale exhaled slowly. Well, he said, that was stupid. Varel's voice was softer now. That was brilliant. He looked at her. You think they'll come back? Yes, she answered honestly. Good, he said. Gives us something to improve. Back on the Joint Command deck, human and Dominion crews stood together watching the stars clear. No one cheered loudly. They understood the weight of what had happened. A war had paused. An invasion had been stopped. Because one human refused to leave someone behind. Because one alien chose to evolve. Admiral Rao addressed both fleets. Today we did not win because we were stronger. We won because we chose to stand together. Fleet Primarch Zyron added. Let history record this. Humanity altered our path. Not through dominance, but through defiance of expectation. On the observation deck, Kale leaned against the glass. Varel stood beside him. What happens now? He asked. We rebuild, she said. Together. She nodded once. For now. He smiled. That's enough. Far beyond the visible stars, fragments of Kethri technology drifted into darkness. Signals flickered faintly. Watching. Learning. Because the story was not over. It never would be. As long as humans existed, there would always be something unexpected. Something creative. Something stubborn enough to carry the impossible out of the mud. And that was only the beginning.